What a delight to be back with Dr. Jeff Jenkins, who has an exotic animal clinic that he's had for a very many decades in San Diego. We were going to talk about tiny things today, Dr. Jeff, but something very large crossed your screen. I'd like to know a little more about Jack, your Maine Coon cat, who
He's
is
right.
larger than most small dogs, and
Yes.
his mother is a huge champion Maine Coon. Look at those
Well,
ears.
actually, his father. His
Oh, his
father.
dad. Hi,
Yes.
Jack. So tell us a little about orange cats. It's not just a myth. Look at that face.
He's a good boy.
Oh my God, that's a lot of
Well,
brushing.
orange cats they don't know normal social limitation.
No boundaries.
They don't have any boundaries and they're insatiably curious.
Nice.
So they don't have much malice. They're not aggressive cats or things like that. But orange cats are always the one that's knocking something off the counter, getting into the wrong place, or inviting themselves to the podcast. That's very much orange cats.
He's very welcome.
So
Although the people with exotics would like to know what exotic animal does he most resemble in his demeanor? Could you compare him to who would you compare him to?
well, they're maybe primate. I don't know,
Yeah.
because they're so capable. He's always figuring out how to get into something. He can get into a cabinet, he can get into a whatever. He's the guy who's going to be in the box that you're trying to unpack. Get your suitcase out. He thinks he's going with you. Yeah.
It's so wild that you spend your whole day amongst things that slither and crawl and hop, and yet at home you have a putty tat.
Oh, yeah. I like everything exotic. So I really like just animals in general. You
Yeah,
know, if I
yeah.
could have a horse sitting in here, I would do that. Whatever.
You could have a miniature
Yes.
horse could come indoors, right?
They're hard on the carpet though.
A little bit, yeah. Not just with their hooves.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I'd asked you when we first met online before meeting in person, which is as close as we're probably going to get in this lifetime, was about tiny things,
Yep.
tiny instruments. And you deal with so many very tiny animals. Can you talk about what some of those animals are and some of the challenges in being their doctor?
Yeah, there's tiny almost everything. So we see tiny mammals, little pet, because people have pet mice and dwarf hamsters. Mouse can be, less than 10 grams. And so
Wow.
those little dwarf hamsters, maybe less than half an ounce, 15 grams.
No
And
kidding.
sugar gliders, 7, 8 gram sugar gliders.
That's how small they are?
Yeah.
So you mean
And
regular, everyday, average, middle of the road hamster is just too big for those people? They
yeah,
won't.
with like the Syrian hamsters, or we called them golden hamsters when we were kids, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
remember.
they're bigger, but they're still pretty small. They're smaller than, say, a rat,
For
which
sure.
maybe rat probably should weigh 400 grams, less than a pound. Although we see some great big rats.
The ones that you
And
have as pets or the ones that are in back alleys in very
yeah,
sick.
mostly the ones that are laboratory rats or somebody's pet.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of them, and they make good pets because they're intelligent. They have their issues as well, but
Do they resemble Jack at all in their curiosity? Because they will climb all over the person that loves them.
yes, but they are pretty shy
They
compared
are.
to, because they don't have that limits on who. I had my other cat, Ravioli, who you met. She has her manners. Like she enjoys company who comes to the house, and she might even rub on their leg. But Jack is probably goes straight for the lap.
All right, let's talk about what.
By the way, here's Jack's grandfather. This is
Oh my
Jack's
God,
grand.
you think, oh my God.
This
Oh,
is
it's
Joey.
magnificent.
Joey was named after the Joey on Friends because he's
Wow.
very handsome, but he's not the smartest guy in the
Joey,
world.
intelligence isn't the greatest yardstick of excellence. How old is he, the grandpa?
Well, he's 2 years older than Jack. And I want to say that they're, I don't know, 4 and 6
Oh,
now,
they're
maybe.
very young still, very
Very
young.
young. Jack's son, who we didn't intend to breed Jack, but he grew up into be this magnificent example of a Maine Coon cat. And the person we got him from insisted on something. So we literally he went to breed. We didn't want anything to get back. We just wanted to perpetuate his gene
Excellent.
line a little
Yeah.
bit. And his son is So this is Joey. Joey's son is Jack, and but Jack's father, who is the son of Joey, is the what became the world champion cat. He won the world championship in England and the
Wow,
number one cat in the world in the cat show world. So
that's
pretty
crazy.
crazy, huh?
Who even knew that there was such a thing? And here
That's
you
right.
are, an exotic veterinarian. You mean you lived with a tomcat? I can't believe we're so off topic of tiny things with exotics, but we all love all animals. I thought it was impossible to live with a tomcat. So clearly that's not true.
Well, he was neutered shortly after,
Okay, but still,
but
you had to
But
live with it.
on these big cats, I don't know if it's everybody's opinion, it's certainly my opinion, like giant breed dogs and things like that, that they really need to grow up and mature. Joey was 2 when being literally scheduled to be neutered, and so he
Oh,
was starting to get tomcatish,
oh
but
my.
that was when where he came from became quite insistent that we do something to
Aw,
perpetuate his gene line.
that's really nice. So you're saying that tomcatness does not really emerge until the cat is fully grown?
Yeah, because it's all testosterone driven.
Sure, of course. Yeah, no,
So
it's certainly true that large breed dogs, maybe all dogs, that spay neuter should be delayed until they are completely fully
yeah, and I think
developed.
I think the recent research shows that less all sorts of problems, but especially
Yep,
neoplasia.
yep. Cancer and all kinds of joint problems, particularly the ACL tears in dogs. Now, in kitties, it's unless you have a purebred cat who comes from an illustrious line of world-renowned cats. I've never heard anyone say we want him to develop his full, beautiful characteristics while he sprays and fights on
That's right.
maturity. I mean, there is that. All right, so let's just talk about tiny things. And
Okay, sorry about that.
no, don't please don't be sorry. We all love all animals, all creatures, great and small. That's the point. We just happen to be lucky enough to have you on this show because exotics are you, so to speak. But how do you see to do the surgery on these teeny tiny animals? Is there a big magnifier like this big over the animal, or do you wear little magnifiers like they wear on Grey's Anatomy to do like neurosurgery on a human brain?
I I have to tell you that I always thought that I'd have to do microsurgery.
Yes.
So I studied that and had mentors, including there was a microvascular surgeon who I met through the Association of Avian Veterinarians, who I became friends with. And then here in San Diego, I became friends with a vascular surgeon at the School of Medicine for UCSD. And he allowed me to come and sit across the microscope, he would say. So,
Wow. For
and watch
human
him do
surgery.
all
Human.
sorts of surgeries. But the reality is, and so I have an operating microscope at the hospital. I have loops, which are kind
Yes.
of what you do if you're doing your
Needle point.
cross stitch or something, maybe, and not that different, really. But over the years, what happens is when you work on those tiny things, you learn first of all, I think you have to know their anatomy really well. And I'm
Yes.
my undergraduate degree is in biology, but I have an emphasis in comparative morphology, comparative physiology, and comparative anatomy. So growing up, I took classes on how is your hamster different from your guinea pig and your guinea pig from your cat. And it's interesting, we're a lot more like the guinea pig than we are like your cat.
Interesting.
But so then just being so early in surgery, I think I really benefited from magnification because just trying to find where those blood vessels were and things like that. But after you've neutered your thousandth guinea pig or your rat or rabbit or something, their anatomy is pretty the same. So I think I've gotten away with less magnification over the years because you just learn the animals inside so well.
Also, do you have teeny tiny tools?
Actually, they have teeny tiny tips, but the tools are oftentimes even larger because if you're spaying a kitty, say, you can hold on to things and do this, but when you're spaying the pet mouse, there's not room inside that pet mouse for anything besides the tool.
Mm.
So you have longer tools with tiny tips more.
How interesting. So it gives you more distance, but what actually touches the animal is
Right.
tiny, not the entire tool.
And doesn't obstruct your view often because you're trying to
Right.
tie off a little teeny blood vessel. You can't have a great big giant instrument or something in there.
Sounds daunting. As some surgeons become older, they can't do a lot of surgery because it involves a lot of physical effort, and their hands don't have that. I've been told this by like orthopedic surgeons, but they need to have this massive strength apparently for some things.
Yeah,
Whereas in your case, you need a delicate touch, right? You need
right.
the opposite of strength, I would guess.
And really, I'll tell you, the most important foundation for working on these tiny things is like positioning and posture. So I even do physical exams sitting in my hospital, and it's been good for my back because a lot of veterinarians have back problems because they're working on big dogs and they're bending over, whatever.
Right.
But one of the problems for surgeons is being hunched over that surgery table.
For hours.
Most of microsurgery is done sitting at a table with your forearms resting on the table and in a posture where if you sit up straight, your focus is right at the end of your hands. So then your hands don't shake. I remember when I met the microsurgeon from the medical school, I met him and he was drinking a cup of coffee. And I said, "Oh, you can drink coffee and do vascular surgery." He goes, "Yeah, the secret is not to change your life cycle so you can do surgery, but to change your surgery so you can have a normal lifestyle."
Oh, that's nice. He has
So,
a good attitude.
but I see when I have new students come through my hospital and stuff, the thing that we really have to work on is to get them to sit at a surgery table with their back straight and their arms on the table and be able to not hunch over to look at their surgical patient.
So that takes a certain amount of discipline and training of
Right.
your body, of your posture. Isn't that interesting? So people who have mice and guinea pigs and rabbits all get them spayed. If they're not spayed, they
No,
just
not very often, but there are some. And right now we're trying to spay and neuter a bunch of guinea pigs because the local rescue since COVID has been overwhelmed with animals. But they can find those animals still have to get along. They have
right.
conflicts of personality, maybe more than anything. But so some of them will like each other and some of them won't. But everybody seems to like the ones whose hormones aren't in the way better. So
Right.
the girls are a little ornery every time they go through a reproductive cycle. The boys may be aggressive because their testosterone's high. But once we neuter them, it kind of levels that whole emotional behavior out.
But also this recent hoarding case in California that Saskia, they took in, I think that's 400 guinea pigs from a hoarding case, and all of the females were pregnant. And I think in the article I read, and you can correct me if I've misread it or misunderstood it, that a guinea pig can become pregnant at weeks of age, like immediately, like really
Well,
young.
I don't think they reach sexual maturity till they're about 12, 16 weeks of age,
And
but yeah,
big
but they can have a baby guinea pig by 4 months.
That's not good. Too many guinea pigs, obviously. So how hard is it to do a guinea pig spay?
Well, guinea pig spays are challenging because you can't make that normal approach through their ventral abdomen. You can, but it's hard on the guinea pig. Their reproductive tract is plastered up against their back on their inside, and they
Mhm.
have this huge GI tract that they use to ferment plant fiber and turn it into that edible fermentation product that they eat. We can come back to that sometime.
Okay.
But so when we spay guinea pigs electively, we do what are called flank spays or lateral spays, and we make two incisions, one on either side of the guinea pig,
I'll be
right
darned.
at the junction of where their last rib attaches to their back. And that incision's only about a centimeter long, and the ovary is right there in that spot. So we can get to the ovary and we can take the horn of the uterus, but they do have a small body in their uterus, which we can't get to that way. But we've been doing those spays that way for years and have never had a problem leaving that piece of the uterus behind.
So when you say they're ovary, they just have one?
And then on the rodents, we do the neuters differently as well. We do those abdominally. So we go in through their ventral abdomen like we would if we were spaying a dog or a cat and just pull their little testicles back up into their abdomen and ligate them there and then close their abdomen. Initially and for
They just
years,
tie it off.
probably,
It's not
yeah.
an actual removal.
No, we take them out.
You
Yeah,
do.
we ligate the vas deferens and their blood supply, and then everything just comes out.
Quite
So
easy
it's
for
easy.
you. Easy for
Yeah,
you.
easy and better. And the one of the problems with guinea pigs is that their personal hygiene is not very good. So they like to pee in their bedding and sit in the same spot. And when we were doing conventional neuters, like you would on a dog or a cat, then the surgical sites would commonly get infected because they don't have very clean behavior. But you get that incision just up a little further onto their abdomen and it doesn't get infected.
They aren't
So,
sitting in the pee.
yeah,
These are the things that I guess you learn after a lifetime of practice. So if
yeah,
people get a guinea pig from a pet store, which I imagine is where most come from, I don't know, or are
right.
there other ways to get them?
And hopefully a rescue if there is one.
There are so many rescued guinea pigs. Buying one seems almost like madness, given
Yeah.
how many there are to be rehomed. But would you get one? It would already be spayed or neutered?
Typically not. Typically they'd have some, so that's an option for adoption at a rescue, at least at our rescue, called We Companions.
Nice.
So they're trying to have more of those so the more variety there are, the better chances of somebody finding a new home because they'll find somebody who can get along with the guinea pig that the prospective owner already has.
Got
So,
it. And do you
um,
recommend having more than one?
oh, I think that guinea pigs like each other's company. They're not as dependent. If you have, say, you have pet rats, if you have six pet rats, they sleep in a pile of six pet rats. And
Uh,
they do that even if they're not perfectly aligned with each other because they really need that touch. But if you have
nice.
two guinea pigs, it's usually, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to sleep here, and you're going to sleep over there. They need their own space.
That's very
But they
interesting.
do knowing there's a guinea pig around and they do well together.
And they can do like guinea pig type things while you're out at work in
Yeah.
enclosure, like they can
Yeah, they're
forage together and feel they're on a
exactly.
shared hunt or something.
Yeah.
So when these students come through and you show them a guinea pig spay or neuter or a rat
Uh-huh.
spay or neuter, is there a percentage of the students who come to you who say, "Whoa, that looks difficult. That looks like way too hard, and I don't like sitting up straight." Or others who say, "I've waited my whole life. This is so cool. Show me again."
Yeah, we see all that stuff.
You
But I
do.
think a lot of them think that, like, say, in the case of doing the abdominal neuters on the roads, they think it's going to be harder
Right.
and it turns out to be so much easier. So
Interesting.
sometimes even though it's different, it's not harder.
So the one other one is the one other spay that we had mentioned before we got on the air, spaying a finch. How hard
Yeah.
is that, and why do you spay a finch?
In the case of that, this for a long time, I think the smallest thing I spayed was a Society Finch. And what happened to her was that she was laying eggs and probably not on a great diet, but I think, and maybe a little debilitated because she'd laid a lot of eggs. But when
Oh,
she tried to lay an egg, her oviduct ruptured and she laid that egg into her abdomen.
ah,
And by the way, someday we may talk about large things because I got the opportunity to do surgery on an Andean condor.
that's large.
That's large.
That's
And
very.
I did that surgery for that same exact reason. She
No
tried
kidding.
to lay an egg and it ended up in her abdomen instead of being laid. But on the little finch, I thought I only attempted it because I thought all I have to do is make a little hole in her abdomen and get this egg out and close up that hole.
Right.
But in trying to do that, egg had become adhered to the oviduct or uterus, if you will. And so in trying to take the egg out, I pulled her reproductive tract away from its blood supply. And luckily it didn't bleed much or anything. But now I was committed. I had to either just throw up my hands and call up the owner and say, I'm sorry I killed your little finch trying
Right.
to get its egg out, or I had to move forward and take the rest of its reproductive tract out. And I'll be damned if she didn't survive it.
Nice.
So that was the first one. And that was early in my kind of doing abdominal surgery on bird career. So that was 40, maybe not 40, 35, 37 years ago.
Trial by fire. Is a
Yeah.
society finch a kind of finch? It has nothing to do with the social class of the owner.
Yes, exactly. But it's interesting. It's a hybrid domestic, it's pretty much a domestic animal because they're a hybridization of two different finches. So
Mhm.
there's no society finches in the wild that didn't escape from someplace
And
or their
why would
parents.
somebody allow their finch to have so many eggs? Is it quite natural and
Well, I
normal?
think that put them in aviaries. That's a kind of bird where a lot of people have an aviary with lots of different birds in it or something like that. And then another talk for another time, but our society has accepted this level of, I would say, negligent nutrition for birds. I mean, imagine walking into the pet shop and asking them to where to get the horse meat for your dog.
Yeah,
I live in the old country and we feed horse meat.
yeah.
They're going to laugh at them. But if you walk in and say, "Where's the bird seed?" They'll tell you it's over on aisle 5. And I assure you, the seed mix is worse for your bird than the horse meat would be for your dog.
Mhm.
And yet, I think 42 years ago, Tom Rowdybush started doing pet nutritional research at UC Davis. He retired, I think, a year or two ago. And now there's lots of people at UC Davis still doing pet bird nutritional research. So we've got this huge body of knowledge about that. But talking people into the average new bird owner is still going to the pet store and buying a seed mix to feed their parrot or their,
Is it specific to the breed of animal?
yeah. And
Oh,
it's just reasonable to think that, nothing but a handful of fatty and carbohydrate seeds isn't going to be enough for them, I think.
well, ignorance needs to be dispelled in all animal guardianship, right? But certainly where birds are concerned, if they
Exactly.
make eggs, make sure they have the right nutrients to make their eggs exit their body. Otherwise, someone like Dr. Jeff Jenkins has to go in and with one of his microtip tools
That's right.
business. Jeff Jenkins, thank you for your devotion so many years to all these animals and to the exotic people who own them. I look forward to continuing more conversations with you. You have so much to share, not just with the young vets, but with all of us. Thank you so very much.
My pleasure.
Take
Nice to spend this time with you. Talk
very
to you
much.
soon.
Bye-bye.